Do you mind sharing? Like, I do money stories with people, so I'm so curious for you. Like, where do you have any recognition of where that came from in terms of childhood? Like, what modeling your parents? Some people are very clear about where it came from, and some people are like, I never really thought of it that way. Do you have any ideas around that?
Money was a big source of contention for me growing up in my family.
Mm-hmm.
It was always the talk of stress. And interestingly enough, my dad he was very abundant, very, very much like my husband, very giving and very, like you said with your husband, how he just kind of flows and he doesn't really think about it. It's like, oh, you need $20, like, here you go, like, not calculating anything. My mom, very hard worker. I know I got a lot of my work ethic from her. We were always, I would say we were a very middle of the range kind of family when it came to money. My parents did eventually get divorced when I was, I guess I was about 16. So it's been quite a while, 16 or 17. So like 23 years ago. I'm 40 now. And money was always a stressful conversation. It was always like, I didn't ever go without. I
Yeah.
always had my needs met. And my parents always got us what we needed and made sure that there was never lack, which is very interesting, but there was always an underlying issue around
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. I like the highlighting of that, like, money equals stressful conversation. So it's
Exactly.
like they're one of the money blocks that I teach people is money causes stress. And often it comes from that place of seeing parents argue about money, whether they had a lot of money or a small amount of money. If you saw your parents stressed about money, you create the money block, like, oh, money causes stress. And so a lot of times people will avoid looking at the amount of money they have. They'll tell themselves they're not great at making money. Like, I'm curious for you how you see that showed up for you in your business. So you're just making connections there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the years leading up to 2017, so my background is in social work. So I was a mental health and addiction social worker for 10 years. I
Wow.
wasn't in entrepreneurship. I wasn't a natural business-minded individual. I was actually a very service-based individual.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had a drive in me and I knew I wanted more. But I've never been, funny enough, I've never been driven by money in the sense of like materialism and buying things. I've always been driven by the financial choices that I can have. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all around more freedom as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to I want a mansion and like that doesn't drive me. I'm not driven by materialism
Mm-hmm.
and that's not good or bad. It's just who I am. Very,
Yeah.
very simple. I'm just a very simple person. But I love the fact that I work for myself now and I have the choices to do what I want when I want. And that's because of going down it would have never happened in social work.
Yeah.
And so the connections I've made over the years from the first kind of starting out in entrepreneurship up until I kind of had that breakthrough is when my money mindset was in its worst place. I was struggling the most in my business.
Hmm.
And when I unlocked, and I really call it like I unlocked something internally around money and my beliefs around money and how it didn't have to be hard and I didn't have to be so afraid. And from
Mm.
2017 till now is when when my business took quantum leaps.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
so those are the
Wow.
connections for sure.
Yeah.